Welcome to A Changed Life. This is a podcast about choosing differently, how you think, how you relate, and how you lead yourself. Here we focus on the inner shifts that create real momentum and open up what's possible next. Let me start with something a client said to me not long ago. She said, I feel like my life is just passing by. Nothing was actually falling apart. Her marriage was intact, her job was stable, her life looked pretty normal, quote unquote, from the outside. But when we started talking, she realized something that stopped her literally in her tracks. Another year had gone by, and then another, and then 5. And the things she once said that she wanted for herself, dreams, experiences, travel, the version of herself that she imagined that she would become, had slowly been pushed further and further and further into the background. She'd gotten so busy managing responsibilities and obligations that she was losing herself inside of them. And what she was feeling wasn't exactly sadness. It was more like numbness. Like she was moving through days and years, but not really living them. It always felt like the living part was going to start at some later date. That moment, that led to a really important conversation because what she was experiencing actually has a name, something that we're going to call unconscious stagnation. So what is unconscious stagnation? What it is when life keeps moving, but you stop evolving inside of it. You're functioning, you're getting all the things done, your responsibilities are handled, but internally, things have stopped expanding. The same emotional patterns are there, the same reactions, the same frustrations, the same ways of thinking about yourself and your life. And years pass. But those patterns remain almost unchanged. And because nothing is drastically wrong, it's easy to miss this. That's why stagnation can last for years, and honestly, often, sometimes for decades. You may have heard the phrase quiet quitting. It became popular when people started talking about employees who weren't technically leaving their jobs, but they weren't really engaged. And that was sometime around the pandemic. They were doing the bare minimum. They were checking in, they were checking out, they were maintaining. And while quiet quitting is usually talked about at work, versions of this happen in every area of life. People quiet quit their dreams. They quiet quit their growth. People quietly quit investing in themselves. They quietly quit relationships. They just slowly start operating at a lower level of investment. And over time, that becomes their new normal. That's unconscious stagnation, because stagnation rarely looks like failure. Sometimes it looks like maintenance mode. You're maintaining your relationships, maintaining the job, maintaining the routines in your life, but you're no longer growing inside of them. Now here's where the science gets really interesting. Your brain actually prefers familiarity over change. So from a neuroscience perspective, the brain's primary job is predictability. It wants to know what's coming up next, and the easiest way to predict the future is simply to repeat the past, which means the brain often prefers what is familiar, even if that familiar pattern hasn't actually been making your life better. Familiar equals safe, even if the familiar pattern includes stress, or overthinking, or self-doubt, or feeling stuck. Your nervous system will often choose the known pattern over the unknown possibility. Dr. Joe Dispenza, who has helped me grow immeasurably, and I have been following his work for years, he talks about this idea through the lens of emotional conditioning. He explains that when our thoughts and emotions repeat long enough, They become the body's chemical baseline. Your body becomes used to certain emotional states, certain ways of thinking, certain ways of reacting, and over time the body actually begins expecting those feelings, which means the brain creates the situation that produces them. So people sometimes say, I keep attracting the same situations, but what's really happening is that their internal patterns are repeating themselves. This isn't happening consciously, but it is happening automatically. Another master with incredible insight around this is Neville Goddard. He spoke about something similar, but from a different perspective. He said, your outer world is a reflection of your inner assumptions, meaning the expectations you carry about yourself and life quietly shape how you move through the world. So if you assume you'll be overlooked, you behave differently. If you assume things won't work out, you approach opportunities differently. Those small shifts in behavior create outcomes that reinforce the original belief, and the pattern continues. So here's the turning point, and it's super, super powerful. The moment you notice the pattern, something changes. Psychology calls this metacognition, the ability to observe your own thinking. Instead of being inside the pattern, you begin seeing the pattern. That small shift creates something incredibly important. That small shift creates choice, because once you see the pattern clearly, you're no longer completely trapped inside it. So here is something simple. This is going to be your rewired tool for this week to try. Ask yourself one question. Where in my life might I be maintaining instead of evolving? This could be your work. It could be health habits. It could be the way you speak to yourself. So I really want you to give some thought. Where do you see in your life that you may be maintaining instead of evolving? And then ask yourself a second question. What belief or expectation might be keeping this pattern in place? So really what we're getting at here is, what is the belief that supports that behavior and that pattern? This isn't to judge yourself. It's just to notice, because awareness is often the very first step towards real, sustainable, lasting change. Unconscious stagnation isn't about failure. It's about patterns running quietly in the background of your life. And the moment those patterns become visible, something incredibly powerful happens. You begin stepping back into authorship of your life, because a changed life doesn't usually begin with a dramatic moment. It begins with awareness. The moment you can see the patterns and realize you don't have to keep repeating them. And in the next episode, we're going to talk about something many people experience without realizing it. Why so many people today are living too close to the edge emotionally, and how creating just a little more space in your life can change everything. And I look forward to seeing you in that episode. If something in today's episode resonated with you, you'll find a link in the show notes to book a free consultation call. Or you can visit ilisecraft.com to explore my programs and free resources. Nothing changes until you do. And when you do, everything does. This is a changed life. Not all at once, but for good.